Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the 31 Days of Horror. I'm your host, Mood616, and thank you once again for stopping in, guys. Yes, 31 Days of Horror Volume 8, Day 20 Deuce, coming at you live and direct. Alright, guys, so we are going to leave Mexico, and we're going to head over to, or back to Indonesia. I think this is the second time we've been there in the 31 Days of Horror, with a film that I've been wanting to see since I found out about it a bunch of years ago. I actually did a series way back in like 2012 or 13 or whatever called the 52 Horrific Weeks in 1981. And this film I did not even know about when I did that 81 series. I found out about it a couple years later after reading this one article, which I'll get into in a minute here. And without further ado, from 1981, it's a film called Srigala, or however you want to pronounce it. I think the translation is wolf. So this is a Indonesian slasher film from 1981, right in the heyday of the slasher craze. So why this film is so famous is because it is categorized as one of the most blatant Friday the 13th ripoffs of all time. Now, like I said, when I did my the 52 Horrific Weeks 1981 series, I did not know about this. I found out about it a couple years later after reading this article about like American films that had been totally ripped off by like the foreign markets, and it was great, man. It was a great article about like Friday the 13th films. That's how I found out about the Freddy ripoff, McCall. And there was a bunch of other ones, and there's so many that were made around the world and stuff. But this one really stuck out to me, and it's funny when you hear people talk about it, they're just like, it's so blatant how much of a ripoff of Friday the 13th is, and I'm like, in theory, I mean, every film that came after Friday the 13th that was set in a camp that had a mass killer going around killing people was kind of a ripoff, but we'll get more into that in a second anyways. So, Srigala from 1981. Basically, this one follows, we got 6 characters in the film. We got 3 gentlemen who are basically scuba diving, and they're out in this lake scuba diving looking for some treasure. Anyways, we got 3 younger people. They kind of rent a cabin at the same lake here, and they're there for some R&R and doing whatever and stuff like that. And ultimately, one thing leads to another, and all 6 of them kind of get together, and then, you know, things start to happen and stuff, and people start getting picked off one by one, essentially. It's the camp slasher narrative. So, anyways, I'll leave it at that. All right, so my thoughts on Srigala. Man, dude, this movie had me in fucking stitches right away. So, of course, it has elements of Friday the 13th throughout the film, right? I mean, it's got a bunch of people out of camp who are essentially getting picked off one by one by an assailant. And, you know, for the first, like, 90% of this movie, you're kind of going, yeah, it's got similarities to Friday the 13th. It's got similarities to The Burning. It's got similarities to so many of these classic slasher films. But what really makes this thing stand out as the classic ripoff is the end. It's just so fucking blatant. It's ridiculous. It made me laugh so hard. But anyways, the actual film itself is pretty fun. It's actually pretty damn fun. So we have these 3 guys that are scuba diving looking for a treasure that has been lost or buried in there for whatever reasons. And we got these 3 kind of, you know, younger people that are doing their thing and stuff like that. And man, okay, so this movie just has it all. It's absolutely fucking ridiculous, man. Some of the dialogue is ridiculous. It does have like elements of comedic moments and stuff. Like these 3 younger cats, there's 2 girls and a guy, and they fuck with this guy so bad on the dock. Like, they throw the dude in the water after he says he can't swim. They're all like, hey, and they're all laughing and shit. So they throw a tube, and I'm just like, what the fuck? Who does that? You throw somebody in the water that can't swim, but here, I'll throw him a bone anyways. But anyway, so that whole, like, the beginning of this film is like, it was making me laugh crazy. But anyways, so we get these 3 guys. They're scuba diving. They're doing the thing. And then all of a sudden, out of the fucking blue, this person in this like red speedboat shows up, starts throwing these dynamite sticks in the water, like trying to kill the scuba divers and stuff, and then it turns into like a high-speed boat chase. Like craziness, man. Like doing a crazy stunts and shit like that. It just goes insane. There's actually a point where this person in the red boat actually drives right through the scuba diver's boat, like completely destroys it and shit like that. And not 2 scenes later are they back driving the same boat. Did they forget that they just destroyed the entire boat in the movie? I literally was laughing so hard. I was like, what the fuck? Like, I've heard of plot holes in films and stuff, and you're just like, whatever, it's a meaningless plot hole. It is what it is. It's kind of funny, clunky narratives and stuff. But that was just so blatant. Like, the boat literally drove right through it, split it in half. And then 2 scenes later, they're like back driving their boat like nothing happened. I'm like, okay. And then like, you know, a little bit, like 10 minutes later, we get this ridiculous like kung fu freaking bitch slap scene where the 2 girls start arguing. One starts calling the other one a slut, and they break into this fight that had me in stitches. I was freaking rolling, man. It was so funny. Like, just the way the narrative progresses in this one is so ridiculous. But all in all, man, you know, as for the kills, not like overly the greatest. Like, there is a decent amount of kills. I mean, there's really only 6 main characters in the film, so kind of do the math there. But you know, how this one ends up is, okay, so there's this huge reveal of who the actual killer is and the reason why there is, but then it leads into like another whole plot hole too, where there's a scene in the film where these scuba divers actually pull this box out of the water thinking, oh, it's going to be all the treasure and stuff. They open it up and it's a fucking body in there. So I'm like, okay, when I'm watching that scene, but then in the reveal, I was like, what? And if you've seen this movie, you know exactly what I'm talking. I'm like, but that dude knew that, like, he knew something was up with this. It was just, he was so ridiculous, so ridiculous. But to make things worse, it's the actual, like, basically the last couple shots in the film are what makes this the Friday the 13th a blatant ripoff. It's so ridiculous. It totally made me laugh. It's so stupid, but it's there and it exists and it's fun. It's honestly a really, really fun movie. But I don't know, man. It's one of these slasher films that, like, you know, a lot of foreign markets do this, man. They try to like make this thing serious, but then they throw in these like ridiculously over the top moments with like stupid sound effects and like comedic moments and stuff like that. I'm just like, okay. I mean, it happens in the American market too, but in this one, like it really does come off being really corny, but it's fun in a corny kind of way. It's weird. Yeah, I mean, it's fun. I mean, there's some pretty good atmosphere later on in the film when it gets all dark and stuff like that. There's some good moments and shit like that. But all in all, man, not really a whole lot to say about it. It's a slasher film. It is what it is. It's a Friday the 13th ripoff. I did think the music was actually pretty good in this too. It was not bad for what it was. But, you know, I mean, it just pulls all the elements from all the classic films and just does it. You know, puts it together and creates this one. I really don't understand the translation with the title. So if it is translated to wolf, I'm not 100% sure why it's called that, but because it's not a wolf doing the killing, so I have no real idea what that's all about. But yeah, this is a great release from TerrorVision. So I found out about this film, I want to say 10 years ago, maybe. I was reading an article and stuff, and I'd completely kind of forgot about it. And then when TerrorVision announced this, I was like, I recognize that title. What is that? What is that fucking movie? And so I did a quick little search. I'm like, oh my God, that's one of the Friday the 13th ripoffs. I've got to see this. So thank the fine folks over at TerrorVision for releasing Srigala, also known as Wolf, from Indonesia 1981 slasher film. Fun stuff. I mean, I was surprised to actually see that there's interviews with some of the cast members and stuff on here. I think they're new interviews, to be honest, which is really interesting. So pretty cool stuff. But yeah, this movie right here is actually, like, I think it's the worldwide disc debut. So this thing either was stuck in obscurity on VHS or just never really had a release at all. I don't know. So, but yeah. Awesome to finally have this in the collection. I definitely watch this again. It's pretty damn fun. So if you like 80s slasher films, like Just Before Dawn, you know, good old Lieberman. Yeah, I think you'll quite enjoy this one. I'm going to give this one a 7 out of 10. It's worthy. I mean, you can't take it serious. It is what it is. It exists. It's a Friday the 13th ripoff that is pretty fun, but it manages to try and do its own thing by having like ridiculous boat scene chases, some kung fu moments. You know, it's got all these other weird and quirky fucking moments. Like, there's a really cool dream sequence in the film. And if you guys know me, I'm not the biggest fan of like just blatant dream sequences. Even though it's, like I said, it's kind of ironic that my favorite franchise is Nightmare on Elm Street, but that's because the whole thing is about dreams and stuff. So, but dream sequences can be pretty corny at times, but this one's actually pretty cool. I like what they did, but the effects on the monsters or zombies, whatever you want to call them, was so bad it had me in stitches. But it's one you got to see to believe, man. It exists. So Srigala 1981, 7 out of 10. that's going to do it for day 22 here, folks. Definitely give that one a shot, man. Support TerrorVision, man. They're doing big things. Very, very nice people over there. I actually just met the guy from TerrorVision at Wasteland. And I honestly wanted to talk to him and ask him a bunch more questions and stuff, but I just felt like, you know, there's other people there that want to buy stuff, and I didn't really want to bug him. So, but I'd like to rip his ear off one day. Rip his ear off. Talk his ear off. I want to rip his ear off. What the fuck am I talking about? Maybe I do. I don't know. But anyways, I'll check you guys tomorrow on day 23, which I don't know what's coming. Oh, I do actually know. We're going to Canada, the foreign land of Canada. All right, guys. Check you then. And as usual,